Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Om Jnanatimurandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuthapad Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyayevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaurnitai Bhagavan Ki Jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Thai Guru Premanande. All glories to some devotees. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So we're continuing reading from Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Thank you. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan Ki Jai. So we're continuing reading from Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila chapter 22, the process of devotional service. We're continuing from text number 18. So this section of Chaitanya Charitamrita is known as Sanatana Shiksha, or the instructions Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives to Sanatana Goswami. And so far we've seen different topics the Lord talks about. For example, a couple of weeks ago we talked a bit about the Avatar Tattva, so the knowledge and understanding of Krishna and his incarnations. Then we talked about the sweetness and the opulence of Krishna. And now we're talking about the process of devotional service. So in this particular chapter, if you read the summary to this chapter, Prabhupada gives us a quick overview of this chapter where he tells us that in this section, Mahaprabhu is speaking about all the different types of processes or, paths of yoga. But of all the paths, it's mentioned by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that unless bhakti is involved, there's no success. So here, let me find the sentence for you. Here we go. One should give up all these useless processes and take seriously to the path of Krishna consciousness. In this way, one's life will be successful if one takes to Krishna consciousness fully. Even though he may sometimes be agitated due to having previously practiced mental speculation and yogic mysticism, he will be saved by Lord Krishna himself. So here Mahaprabhu then continues to talk about how devotional service is given by pure devotees. So here in text 18, we'll continue reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is a continuation from yesterday, where Srimad Nrsimha Prabhu was talking about how, or going through how Mahaprabhu was telling Sanatana Goswami that there are many different processes for liberation or achieving liberation, but unfortunately you cannot attain liberation unless bhakti is involved. So the previous verse, text 17, devotional service to Krishna is the chief function of the living entity. There are different methods for the liberation of the conditioned soul, karma, jnana, yoga and bhakti, but all are dependent on bhakti. Text 18. But for devotional service, all other methods for spiritual self-realization are weak and insignificant. Unless one comes to the devotional service of Lord Krishna, jnana and yoga cannot give the desired results. Here Prabhupada quotes in the purport, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yatho bhaktira dokshaje ahoitakiya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. And the main point here is that for a living entity to actually be satisfied, for a living entity to be happy, then the greatest dharma or activity, occupational duty, is to perform devotional service to Sri Krishna without any interruption and without any personal motivations, or in other words, simply for Krishna's pleasure. And Prabhupada quotes Dhruva Maharaj here, that Dhruva Maharaj, he left home at a young age for the sake of performing some sort of mystic yoga process to attain Vishnu. Because as you know, the story is that Dhruva Maharaj wanted to get a kingdom even greater than his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. So, of course, if you go back a bit further, the reason why he gets that sort of desire is because his stepmother does not recognize him or allow him to sit on his father's lap. So Dhruva Maharaj hears from his mother that you should go to Vishnu. Vishnu will be able to satisfy your desires. So then Dhruva Maharaj goes to the forest and he tries to search for Vishnu, but he is very fortunate to come across Narad Muni. And it's mentioned it's because of that fortunate encounter with Narad Muni. He was performing mystic yoga performance or process of realization, but because Narad Muni had given it to him, Narad Muni had specifically taught him how to worship Lord Vasudeva with the proper mantra. Even Dhruva Maharaj installed the Lord in a form of clay or mud and worshipped the Lord, along with these other practices of breathing and asana and others. And it's mentioned here that Dhruva Maharaj, he went to practice mystic yoga to see the Lord personally face to face. But when he developed an interest in devotional service, he saw that he was not being benefited by karma, jnana and yoga. So in other words, without devotional service, these other paths of liberation of karma, jnana and yoga, they are imperfect. And the next couple of verses, Mahaprabhu will further highlight this. Text 19. When pure knowledge is beyond all material affinity but is not dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, it does not appear very beautiful, although it is knowledge without a material tinge. What then is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the beginning and transient by nature? If they are not utilized for devotional service of the Lord, how can they be very attractive? This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, canto number the first canto, chapter 5, text 12. And the context here is that this is when Vyasadeva is very disturbed and morose. That despite writing all the Vedas, Upanishads, he's written the Itihasas and the Puranas as well. But he still feels disappointed, despondent. There's still this feeling that I have not given the best for society, I have not given best for human society. So that's when Narad Muni appears. And Narad Muni actually chastises Vyasadeva. And he tells Vyasadeva that you've written all this karma kanda, jnana kanda, but you haven't given that knowledge which is spotlessly pure, which is the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. You have prescribed living entities the process of karma, performing activity for the purpose of getting some gain in return. One performs yajna, and by performing yajna for the demigods, one gradually understands the position of the Supreme Lord. Then one learns to give up the attachment to the results, and this gradual process will sidetrack any living entity. Because then one will think, okay, so if I do this, I'll get what I want to enjoy, so what's the point of anything further? Because the whole reason I'm doing a yajna is so that I can get some enjoyment, some result, some happiness. So in that sense, one will become deviated. And then you have the Jnana Kanda, which talks a bit about, you got the Upanishads, they talk about how understanding of the Supreme Lord beyond nature, material nature, that he can walk but has no legs. All of this knowledge is there. But unfortunately, due to the speculative capacity or faculty of the living entities, they misuse this knowledge. And again, they fall into the trap of material nature and thinking that they themselves are God. So, Narad Muni then tells Vyasadeva this verse, so what's the point of all this knowledge if it's not engaged in the service of the Lord, if it's not used to glorify Krishna? Because all of this knowledge used for material affairs is just simply painful from the beginning and transient by nature. So in other words, you endeavor so hard for something that's paltry, that's very small. There's the example given in, Prabhupada gives this example, that in one particular city, there was a drought and there was not much food. In fact, people were starving. And a Brahmana happened to visit. And he, being very famished, parched, thirsty and hungry, as he walked through the village, he was looking for food. And unfortunately, he could not find any proper foodstuffs to take. But he came by chance across a chandala, or dog eater. And this dog eater had caught himself some food. And of course, dog eaters, you know what their foodstuffs are. So this Brahmana, having no choice and understanding that if he wanted to continue to live, that he should take part in some foodstuffs so that he could continue his dharma or continue his occupation or his existence. Anyway, the point of the story is that this Brahmana approaches the dog eater and tells the dog eater that, look, I'm feeling very hungry and I should eat something. You should feed me with what you have. But then the dog eater says that you're a Brahmana, how can I feed you anything? You can't take my foodstuffs. The Brahmana tells him, no, I know what's right, what's wrong, you just feed me. And he says, I have only enough for one person, I'll share you with whatever you have. It's mentioned the Brahman took whatever's there and he left. And as the Brahmana left, he thought, what a difficult situation. He thought, I've lost my caste and I'm still hungry. So the point is that going through material existence for the sake of material knowledge, for the sake of improving one's material situation, always puts one in an embarrassing situation. That neither you are successful in your attempt, because you endeavor so hard, it's not guaranteed the result will be success. It's not always guaranteed that you'll be happy and satisfied once you get the result. Oh, and going even further, whether you get the result or not. So, here Narad Muni then chastises Vyasadeva and tells him to write about the activities of the personality of Godhead. And Mahaprabhu is quoting this in this particular section. There's another verse here as well. This is being quoted from, this is text 20, Madhya chapter 22, text 20. Those who perform severe austerities and penances, those who give away all their possessions out of charity, those who are very famous for their auspicious activity, those who are engaged in meditation and mental speculation, and even those who are very expert in reciting the Vedic mantras, are not able to obtain any auspicious results, although they are engaged in auspicious activities, if they do not dedicate their activities to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I therefore repeatedly offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose glories are always auspicious. This is Sukadeva Goswami. Just before he begins reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, he offers prayers. And these prayers, Tasmai Subhadre Shavase Namo Namaha, that I repeatedly offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose glories are always auspicious. So here Sukadeva Goswami is mentioning what's the point of all of these activities, beginning from austerities, penances, charity, fame, meditation, mental speculation, and even reciting Vedic mantras expertly. What's the point of all of that? It's to get some sort of auspicious result, some happiness, something that will benefit the living entity. But here Sukadeva Goswami is saying, unless it's dedicated to Krishna, it won't give that auspicious result. Why? Because it will just cause one to continue repeated birth and death again and again and again. So where's the auspiciousness in that? Where's the happiness in that? Text 21. Speculative knowledge alone without devotional service is not able to give liberation. On the other hand, even without knowledge, one can obtain liberation if one engages in the Lord's devotional service. So here, Kaviraj Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is mentioning here that jnana, the prerequisite to devotional service is not jnana. Okay, so we're talking about three different processes of liberation: karma, jnana, and yoga. Okay, outside of bhakti, of course. So karma, one performs fruitive activities and offers the result. Jnana, one performs mental speculation or speculative philosophy on the texts, the yoga texts. And then you have yoga, those who perform mystic yoga, Ashtanga yoga, the asanas, the breathing, so on and so forth. Now the aim of each of these three personalities is that the one who's performing karma kanda wants some immediate result, some quick result to enjoy. Right? Economic development, Prabhupada says, karma. Right? We work hard throughout the day to get some money so that we can, exist in the material world. Buy a car, build a house, fame, to have social status, all of these things. That's, of course, that's just karma. Karma yoga is when you involve Krishna in the picture. Then there's some success because you're progressing slowly towards Krishna. But karma in of itself is useless. Jnana, when one performs mental speculation. The people that just give up life, what's the point? Let me engage in understanding a bit about the supreme truth, spirituality, beyond material existence. And with their mental faculties, they try to screw out different meanings for their own understanding. And then you have the yoga, the people who want mystic perfection, the siddhis. They perform their Ashtanga yoga in a crude way, without Krishna in the picture. So these are the three processes that are being talked about. If you talk about karma yoga, if you talk about karma jnana yoga, if you talk about yoga or hatha yoga or ashtanga yoga, when the word yoga is introduced, then Krishna is in the picture. Because yoga means to link. Yoga means to link. When it's karma yoga, then it's meant for performing activities to get a result that is to be offered to Krishna. Jnana yoga is engaging in understanding this knowledge so that you can get closer to Krishna, understand who Krishna is, who am I, what is our relationship, abhideya sambandha prayojana. Then you have yoga, mystic siddhis. They want to see the supersoul within the heart. But everything has to be in relation to Krishna. That's what was mentioned in a couple of verses before, that unless one comes to devotional service to the Lord, Krishna, jnana and yoga cannot give desired results. Even going back further, there are different methods for the liberation of the conditioned soul: karma, jnana, yoga and bhakti, but all are dependent on bhakti. So if we understand that one point Mahaprabhu is threading through these verses, that without devotional service to the Lord, without Krishna in the picture, everything is useless, everything is inauspicious. So auspiciousness is in relation to Krishna, because that is the ultimate auspiciousness. That is what will be happy. That's what will make us happy. Yayatma su prasidati. So then now Mahaprabhu is talking about how devotional service does not require one to have some prerequisite knowledge, so to speak. And this speculative knowledge is being mentioned. Knowledge of devotional service, of course, one needs to have. But speculative knowledge, that's different. This jnana that's mentioned here, Prabhupada mentions one cannot attain liberation simply by speculative knowledge. And speculative knowledge means knowledge beyond, or not beyond, but rather outside of parampara. That is speculative knowledge. When one uses their own mental faculty to create their own meanings out of things, without following the proper guru parampara. For such persons, liberation is not guaranteed. In fact, it's not attained at all. It's like trying to make a cake, but just using whatever ingredients you like. You're not following a recipe. It's not guaranteed result. So it's not scientific, if you want to say in that way. But the Guru Parampara is spiritual technology. It's scientific. They have given teacher to disciple, and they're giving the message. They've tried and tested it, and they've passed it on to their disciple. They're giving it to us. We are practicing it. We are seeing results, and it's our duty to give it to others as it is, without any alteration or change. So Prabhupada then uses this example in the purport to explain how, for a devotee, even the four perfections of human life, dharma, artha, kama and moksha, all four are automatically obtained by a devotee. You just simply have to chant Hare Krishna and serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, following the instructions of the spiritual master. And he quotes here Bilvamangal Thakur, "O my Lord, if one engages in your pure devotional service with determination, you become visible in your original transcendental youthful form as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as liberation is concerned, she stands before the devotee with folded hands, waiting to render service. Religion, economic development and sense gratification are all automatically attained without separate endeavor. Dharma, artha, kama and moksha." Dharma, artha, kama, religion, economic development and sense gratification are automatically obtained by a devotee. And moksha, liberation, is standing at the doorstep of the devotee asking, "Can I render some service unto you?" In other words, the devotee has transcended the material existence. They are no longer affected by birth, death, because they are engaged in the service of the Lord. For them, this situation is just an opportunity to serve Krishna. Death is just a change of scene, a portal to another opportunity of service. That's all. Whereas for other living entities, death is the end of one struggle and the beginning of another. Because they struggle so hard for obtaining something in this life, death stops that, they have to again start from scratch for another struggle. And this way, continuously birth and death again and again. So, Prabhupada's quoting this, Mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevate sman. Very famous verse by Bilvamangal Thakur. So text 22, my dear, this is Lord Brahma, another quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 14. My dear Lord, and this is a very nice verse actually, Prabhupada quotes this a lot as well. My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the only auspicious path. If one gives it up simply for speculative knowledge of the understanding that these living beings are spirit souls and the material world is false, he undergoes a great deal of trouble. He only gains troublesome and inauspicious activities. His endeavors are like beating a husk that is already devoid of rice. One's labor becomes fruitless. So, when you see someone beating, of course nowadays for us, where does milk come from? You ask any child, they'll say it comes from the supermarket fridge. Where does rice come from? The store. So that's our unfortunate circumstance. But rice comes from the field, from paddy, right? From wheat. So then if you beat, what happens is that there's the outer husk and within it is the grain. And we take that grain and that is rice. But when you beat the husk without rice, is there any result? Are you making any benefit? Any progress, advancement in life? No. You're not doing anything. You're just simply wasting time. It's like chewing the chewed. You get sugar cane, you chew it and you suck it and you get all the juice out and then you give it to someone else and you say, "Here, please enjoy." Will they enjoy? Of course not, they won't enjoy. There's nothing left, right? But it's a useless endeavor. But still, Maya is so strong that she covers the living entity. And have you heard this saying, the grass is greener on the other side? That's exactly what she does. That's exactly what she does. Although the sugar cane has been chewed, although the rice has already been obtained from the husk, still she uses her bewitching potency to tell you that actually they tried it, they're happy, you should also try it too. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives a very funny example in this connection actually. Prabhupada quotes it as well. He says that once in one particular village, a traveling circus came and set up their stage and they were giving their show. And so all the villagers, they stood in line. And the first man in line, he came and he was standing there waiting. And they asked for the fee to enter. And of course, you know, when they enter, you always, anytime you ask, pay, I have to give money for this, you know. So the person gave the money. And he entered into the arena. And there he looked around and it was empty, pitch black, empty, nothing is there. And when he looked around, as soon as he took a step forward, 2 big men came and started beating him up with sticks. They just beat him black and blue. And then finally he got up and he dusted himself off and he thought, I paid to get beaten up, or I shouldn't show my face like this to the other villagers. So he straightened himself up, dusted himself off, put himself in a nice position, and he walked out of the tent. And then they asked, so how was it? It was very good. You should also go in and try. So that's the thing. Unfortunately, that's the thing. So you understand the story Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions here, that we want to save face, even though we're struggling in material existence. No one is benefiting here. Still, we want to save face. And we tell others that they can also enjoy as well. But there's no such thing like that here in the material world. That's why Lord Brahma is mentioning. His endeavors are like beating a husk that is already devoid of rice. One's labor becomes fruitless. That is the most heartbreaking thing. That you endeavor so hard and it bears no fruit. There's no result from your endeavors. That is the biggest heartbreak. And that's how the material nature works. And that's not a flaw, it's a feature. It's designed in such a way like that, so the living entities give up trying to enjoy in this material world and go back home, back to Godhead. Back to their original position as Krishna's servant. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again quotes, this is from chapter 7, text 14 of Bhagavad Gita. Devi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva papadyante mayam etam tarantite. It's quoted herein from Madhya chapter 22, text 23. This divine energy of mind consisting of the 3 modes of material nature is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So again, all of these things, all of what we've discussed so far, Krishna has very succinctly given it to us in 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. What is that? He's given this divine energy of mind consisting of 3 modes of material nature is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Simple, right? You just take shelter of Krishna and you can cross over the ocean of material existence. Text 24. The living entity is bound around the neck by the chain of Maya because he has forgotten that he is eternally a servant of Krishna. Text 25. If the conditioned soul engages in the service of the Lord and simultaneously carries out the orders of his spiritual master and serves him, he can get out of the clutches of Maya and become eligible for shelter at Krishna's lotus feet. Text number 26. The followers of the Varnashrama Institute. Okay, so here Mahaprabhu is talking about all of these different processes are non-different from a chain that's holding a living entity, or like an animal, a chain that holds an animal in place. Similarly, for the living entity, Maya, or the illusion, is that chain. It's mentioned in this material world, every single jail you can think of, there's been some sort of jailbreak. There's been some escape. But this material existence is such a great jail that there's no bars. Still people have not escaped. People are not able to escape. Because Maya's chains, Prabhupada says here, material consciousness is like a chain around the neck of the conditioned soul. It's our consciousness. You'll have to wear a mask properly here. So it's all about the consciousness of the living entities. It's all about where our intent is, what we're thinking, what's our modus operandi, as they say, what's our purpose, how we are acting in this material world. If it's for material happiness, then we get bound up in material existence. But if it's for Krishna, if you want to go beyond Maya's clutches, like Krishna says, Devi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. You want to surpass that, then you have to take shelter of Krishna. Taking shelter of Krishna means doing whatever Krishna wants. In other words, you sacrifice your own desire to enjoy. You sacrifice your endeavors to enjoy your own senses, and you please Krishna's senses. Text, now we're going to talk a bit about the Varnashram Dharma aspect. Text 26, the followers of the Varnashrama institution accept the regulative principles of the 4 social orders, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, and 4 spiritual orders, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas. However, if one carries out the regulative principles of these orders, but does not render transcendental service to Krishna, he falls into the hellish condition of material life. So even if you follow Varnashram Dharma for the sake of following Varnashram Dharma, if Krishna is not in the picture, again, useless endeavor. Because why would you go so hard? Why would you struggle so hard to follow rules and regulations so that your life will be successful? There's endeavor so that there's some fruit from the endeavor, right? You work hard so that you'll enjoy life without any difficulties. Sinful life brings so much difficulties, right? But if you perform proper activities, you'll be peaceful and happy. Like, for example, we live in a society where the governance is done by the police, the laws, and the police uphold the laws, right? So the citizen is not afraid of the police because they follow the laws, whereas the thief is always afraid of the police because they're not following the laws. So who is in but from a materialistic point of view, it seems the thief is free. It seems the thief has freedom, whereas the citizen is bound up. But who actually has freedom? The citizen or the thief? The citizen, because the thief is constantly in anxiety, whereas the citizen is peaceful and happy. Yes, again, coming back to consciousness. So why would you perform Varnashram Dharma? For some sense of happiness, to be happy, to be fulfilled, satisfied at heart. But you will not get that if it's not in relation to Krishna. If it's not in relation to Krishna, if it's just for the sake of it, you will only get fleeting happiness. In fact, Mahaprabhu was saying he falls into the hellish condition of material life. Even worse, negative, not even neutral, negative. Okay? Text 27, from the mouth of Brahma, the Brahmanical order has come into existence. Similarly, from his arms, the Kshatriyas have come. From his waist, the Vaishyas have come. And from his legs, the Shudras have come. These four orders and their spiritual counterparts, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas, combine to make human society complete. 28. If one simply maintains an official position in the four Varnas and Ashramas, but does not worship the Supreme Lord Vishnu, he falls down from his puffed up position into a hellish condition. So these two verses clarify the previous verse. We'll continue. This is text 29. There are many philosophical speculators, Gyanis, belonging to the Mayavad school who consider themselves liberated and call themselves Narayana. However, their intelligence is not purified unless they engage in Krishna's devotional service. Mahaprabhu is going through all the various options people have by practicing the Vedas, practicing Dharma as given by the Vedanta or Vedas. I'll just go to a previous purport. I completely skipped it. This is the beginning, actually, text 18. It's important to understand this one. This is the purport to 18. In Vedic scriptures, stress is sometimes given to a fruitive activity, speculative knowledge and mystic yoga system. Although people are inclined to practice these processes, they cannot attain the desired results without being touched by Krishna bhakti or devotional service. In other words, the real desired result is to invoke dormant love for Krishna. So all of these processes are just meant to nudge the living entity in the right direction. Kind of like a carrot in front of a donkey. Right? Because for a living entity to immediately jump to the platform of pure devotional service is hard. In fact, sometimes because of the difficulty because it's a complete shift in consciousness, completely 180 degrees in one sense, when a person's unable to attain such perfections or perfectional stage of consciousness, what do you think will happen? They'll get fried, they'll get fed up, and they'll go even more into material existence. They'll go in the opposite direction even more. Right? Because then they'll think, it's not possible, what's the point? I might as well go deeper in what I was doing before. So the Vedic culture gives gradual progression as well for those living entities not willing to give up their independence, who still have that hope in Maya, although there's no grain in the husk. Right? Maybe if I just beat it a little bit more, some grain will come out. Right? Unfortunately, that's our position. No one in this material world is free from that unless you're a pure devotee. Okay? So Mahaprabhu is then talking about Varnashram Dharma. It's not going to work without Krishna Bhakti. Philosophical speculators without Krishna Bhakti, not going to work. You're not going to attain your desired result. Because they want liberation, right? Material world, fed up with it, give it up. There's nothing worth in this material world to do here. There's no the result gives me pain. The process of getting the result gives me pain. Better just forget it. But here's the thing. even though they engage in philosophical speculation, they get some knowledge. They're called transcendentalists. In other words, they're able to go beyond material existence. They're able to attain at least somewhat some sort of state of satisfaction. Unfortunately, the next verse, text 30 says, Yenya Ravindaksha Vimuktamaninas te Tvayasta Bhavad Avashuddha Buddhaya Aruya Krichyena Parampadam Tata Patantyado Nadata Yusmadangraya. Very famous verse. This is the demigods praying to Krishna within the womb, 10th canto, chapter 2. O lotus-eyed one, those who think they are liberated in this life but do not render devotional service to you must be of impure intelligence. Although they accept severe austerities and penances to rise to the spiritual position, to impersonal Brahman realization, they fall down again because they neglect to worship your lotus feet. So they gain that knowledge. They get to the doorstep of moksha, liberation. Unfortunately, they don't have that further realization that keeps them there. It's limited, and for them, they cannot just simply exist. Because we are by nature active. The soul is active by nature. Jatu tishtya. In Bhagavad Gita, it's mentioned specifically, I believe it's the 3rd canto, one cannot do nothing even for a moment. Jatu tishtya karma krit. Yeah, that's one cannot do anything without, for a moment one cannot do anything. We always have to do something. The soul is by nature active. So this attaining of Brahman is just a temporary position. And even though they're so-called liberated, they again fall back down. So again, Mahaprabhu is highlighting what point here? Without bhakti, without devotional service to the Lord, all one's endeavors to attain spiritual realization will become fruitless. It will be very difficult. Now, text 31. Now, we're getting to a very nice section of this particular chapter. Let's see the time. Okay, I'll go through text 31 and we can continue tomorrow. Krishna is compared to sunshine and Maya is compared to darkness. Wherever there is sunshine, there cannot be darkness. As soon as one takes to Krishna consciousness, the darkness of illusion, the influence of the external energy, will immediately vanish. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Hai Andakar Yahan Krishna Tahan Nahi Maya Radhikar. So, this is the section, this is a very nice verse quoted often by Srila Prabhupada also, that whenever Krishna, this is our, I don't know, I forgot what they call it, but it's the line that's used in Back to Godhead. Yeah, it's the line that wherever there's, where there's knowledge, there's no nescience. Right? So in other words, where Krishna is, there's no such thing as Maya. Right? Krishna is the sun, Maya is like darkness. Where is Maya's ability to stand before Krishna? Like where is the darkness ability to stand before the sunshine, before the sun? So here Prabhupada then talks about how wherever there's light, there cannot be darkness. When a living entity becomes Krishna consciousness, or rather when he becomes Krishna conscious, he is immediately relieved of all material desires, material lusty desires. Lusty desires and greed are associated with rajas and tamas, darkness and passion. So the modes of nature one is immediately freed of, and by association with Krishna in devotion, by performing devotional service, one is able to elevate oneself immediately. What the jnanis, the yogis and the karmis try so hard, life after life, to obtain, just by performing devotional service, a bhakta gets like that. Freedom from the modes of material nature. And they get more. They're able to get ananda, or the bliss that comes from serving Krishna for his pleasure. So, Prabhupada is saying when a person is Krishna conscious, he continuously hears about Krishna, thinks about him, worships him and serves him as a devotee. If he remains in Krishna consciousness in this way, the darkness of Maya certainly will not be able to touch him. So that's text 31. Now we will continue the rest tomorrow. Tomorrow is a very nice section. It talks about Krishna's thought process. So now what we've gone is gone from a stage of a living entity conditioned by material existence trying to get out, but their process of getting out without Krishna is not going to work. Okay, so now they're going to try getting out by proper methods, Vedanta, Jnana, Yoga, Karma, Varnashram, Dharma. Without Krishna, it's not going to work. So bhakti is the main thing. So why do you endeavor so hard to add bhakti to your process? You might as well just practice devotional service, bhakti. Right? What's the point of going around, touching the nose from around the head? Right? You might as well just touch the nose directly. Just perform devotional service. So now that we've come to this point, Mahaprabhu is going to talk about what is the consciousness of a person who desires, like for example, we perform devotional service, and we know pure devotional service means to please Krishna's senses. Everything for Krishna, nothing for me. But we're on the journey to get there. What happens if we go to Krishna and we desire something from Him? What happens in that situation? That's what you'd think. But we will continue to read tomorrow. Tomorrow you'll see Krishna's mood, Krishna's inner thoughts. For when a devotee comes to him for material pleasure, what he thinks and how he satisfies them. That we'll discuss tomorrow. Okay, are there any comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much for listening. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan ki jai, Shri Jagannath Balesh Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Shri Gaur Nitai Bhagavan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.